What is going on YouTube? This is Henry Love, or better known by my creative name as Odie, coming at you from the Panhandle, Texas Panhandle. And a little bit about me. I'm a songwriter, poet, playwright. I'm all over the place, man. And so I thought to myself, I've been myself a lot like other uh songwriters and such, creative types that are trying to get their name out there. I thought, well, what if I did an interview with myself? And I thought, well, that's a little bit bizarre, and I thought, well, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, it'll be fun and it's creative, and it'll definitely get the word spread spread a lot more. So, never mind the hair, by the way. um, anyway, so with that being said, here's a few questions that I set aside to ask myself during this video. And my first question was, where did it all start? Well, I was born in Amarillo to two loving parents. I've never had any doubt about that. I love my family. And I love God and family. Those are the two things that come first in my life before anything else. And anyway, I was born in Amarillo and raised in Border, which is about give or take 45 minutes away from Amarillo. And for a lot of people further away, well, where's Amarillo? Where's Border? Well, if any of you have heard Amarillo by Morning by Jason Aldean, or excuse me, that's George Strait, or Amarillo Sky by Jason Aldean, you'll know where Border is just by hearing about it. And if I said Border, I'm so sorry. I'm so tired. Then you'll know a lot about Amarillo just by hearing this music and whatnot. But a lot of a long time ago, a friend of mine asked me in school. It's like, why is there so many songs written about Amarillo, and we don't hear anything about Border? And I thought, and I said, well, they must have realized that they went too far. They've seen what they wanted to see, and this is a mistake. Go back. But wait, why are you writing a song? So people will believe that we were there, you know? And anyway, so yeah, grew up in Border. Uh, let's see. I went to Border school. My elementary years, I went to a little school called Spring Creek, which was about 15-20 minutes away from here, give or take. And so, yeah, that's it for that part. Um, when the okay, the next question is, when did I decide I was going to start writing? I didn't really decide. Um, let's see. It's my eighth grade year of middle school. I'm sorry. Anyway, uh, and I was writing Christian music at the time, and it wasn't what I would call good. It was mediocre, but I was eighth grade, just writing music to God, and anyway, actually had my first song performed by a local band here in town, and which I thought was cool. That was the highlight of my short life. Um, anyway, and then so that was it for songwriting. And whenever I started writing poetry and short stories, we were my English class was reading about Edgar Allan Poe in the same year, and I thought, man, this is interesting. And we the first thing we'd read was The Telltale Heart, and I thought, man, this guy, it's insane, but it's literature. This is awesome. And anyway, that night I went home and had a dream where I wake up in this house, and um, I've never seen this house before. Uh, so I'm looking around, wondering where I'm at, and opening doors, nothing in the rooms, and the last door that I open, like, the room is empty except for there's this mirror, like, on the back wall, and it's shattered, it's spiderweb cracked, and so I'm walking up to it, and I'm looking inside, and it's not my reflection, it's Poe's reflection. And I thought, man, this is surreal, and uh, that next morning I started working on my first short story, Reflection in the Broken Mirrors. Again, it was mediocre. The first draft was only about 3 pages. Um, but as time went on, I had tried to revise it and make it longer, things like that. And um, anyway, but I mean, to this day, I still write short stories, poetry, just just different things, songwriting. I still write Christian music. Uh, and I've gone on to, since Ozzy Osbourne's died, I've sort of went in that direction. Still holding on to my faith and everything, but you know, as a writer, I tell myself that it's this character that I give myself that separates who I am. Um, it gives me more of a creative uh, outlook. It gives me a little bit more creative control. And honestly, that's all it is. Writing is creating a world whenever we have no control in our own world. And um, so yeah. I've had. Let's see. The next question is, have I had any luck so far? I wouldn't say luck. Well, I have to a point. I've been featured in two of Eber and Wein's, or Wine, whoever it is, publishing. There's a publishing contest, that they do every year. I've been featured in two books, and if you want to, sign up for that, contest, I think you can find it on Poetry Foundation. I believe that's where I found it the first time, and I stumbled across it, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna try. So anyway, but aside from that, I've had a lot of close, almosts. I should say. I was talking to this person a few months ago, and they sounded legit to me. They had sent me a check. They sent a picture of the check telling me I was going to go here for songwriting, things like that. I think it was supposed to be Virginia. And so take it to the bank, because my family's like, I would get that checked out. And, at first, everybody was like, well, if they're sending you money to go here, it sounds great, because my mother's always said, if you have to pay any money for something that people want from you, like as far as writing, whatever goes, um, it's all fake. And so they were, supposedly sending me money, and I had the check in my hand, and it turned out to be it was a real company, but these people were, I guess, posing as a company and whatever, um, that they didn't belong to. So, um, but my next question that I had for myself is, you know, how, how do I put music to my lyrics, even though I'm not, I can't sing. I don't think I can anyway. I can't play an instrument. I play a little piano, um, things like that, but not enough to make my own music. Well, the answer is, and a lot of people might ridicule me for this, they might hate me. I've had to use AI music, just for instrumental and, the voice and everything, but I write the lyrics, I put them on there, and, I say, okay, I want it this way, this type of voice, this mood, and they take it from there. And it's had a lot of positive feedback from people. A lot of my friends and family, oh yeah, I love that music, and so yeah, I've had to resort to AI music for that. Um, what was I gonna say? I'm sorry. It's been a Wednesday, Monday, but um, I've thought about making CDs with the music that I've made and selling them, but I know a lot of people aren't too crazy about AI music, but yeah. So as I said, I write a lot of things, music wise, just different genres. I still do Christian music. I still do the harder rock, and you know, people, ask me all the time, well, why, how can you go from Christian music to hard rock? And, I think about it, and, I really don't have a answer for it. I guess it's because, I'm a Christian, through and through, but, it shows our human side. It shows that we still falter. We still, you know, we don't live up a lot to the expectations, and and it, not to mention, it shows just different parts of life. If you're angry, you write angry music. If you're sad, you write sad music. And um and that's the beauty about songwriting, I think, is because even though you might not feel it, you as a songwriter, it doesn't mean that there's somebody out there that doesn't feel that way, or, vice versa. So you're writing the song, but you're not writing it for yourself. You're writing it to other people because, if you write the song for yourself, you'll be content and everything else. But whenever you write it for the people, it spreads and like a wildfire, and and it brings people closer together, and that's that's the main purpose of it, I think. Um, anyway, aside from songwriting, okay, the next question is a song from songwriting. What else do you write? What else do I write? Um, so as I said, I write poetry, short stories, plays, novels, or unfinished novels, I should say. I've written one, but I think that's all. A lot of my work, as I spoke previously, reflects on Edgar Allan Poe, also Lewis Carroll, Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde was really who got me into playwriting. And, I think the man, even though he was ridiculed for most of his life and exiled and everything, he was a genius. His humor was dry, but it was witty, and that's what the world needed back then. I think, as far as um, comedy, ha ha ha, just feel good things, especially in the Victorian era. And um, I the first play I wrote, I went to the theater here in town, the College Theater, and I talked to the director. He was a good friend of mine, and he was the. I had worked with him a little bit on. We were doing a production of Annie before COVID-19 hit, and so we had to stop production. But I had established a really close relationship with him. He was a great guy, and anyway, so I told him, I said, I said I'm working on this play, and I said it's almost finished, and I said, is there any way we could put it on, produce it up here? And he said, well, send it to me. So I sent it to him, and he's reading it, and he told me that it's sort of like a Christmas Carol meets Mary Poppins. I won't go into full detail on what the play was about, but uh, we actually would have produced it, but uh, I think the longest that we had done was 70 something, a certain limit, and I had actually ended up with, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 182 pages. And they said, well, you got to trim it up a little bit before, we do anything with it. And I thought, well, how am I going to do that? Because every part of the story is, it corresponds, it's crucial to what happens. And, I looked it up, well, how long usually is a, 182 page long movie or play, and it said something about 2.5 to 3 hours. And I thought, oh my lord, no wonder, you know. But, um, yeah, it's a bit about who I am, and and my last question that I have for myself is, who do I want to see this video? Um, just anybody who, everybody knows somebody on Earth, and I would really like to, find any musicians, um, Christian musicians, harder rock musicians, things like that. Um, just anybody that's willing to give a guy a break. That's slow to start off, because I am where you were whenever you started out. You were looking for anybody to give you a break. You were looking for, oh hey, I'll, come over here, let's play your stuff. That's, you know, life is about, giving opportunities and taking chances on somebody. And, that's at the end of the day, I think that's all that I need. So, anyway, with that being said, uh, thank you all for watching, and I will talk to you later on. So, anyway, stay safe, be blessed, love God, and love people. Um, and until next time.